This is the tale of Courtney and Rob, friends of mine. They were boyfriend and girlfriend, but because of Final Fantasy XI, they were eventually broken up. I've mentioned many times how Final Fantasy XI can corrupt an actual human being, but I've been hesitant to talk about how and why because I have a story related to it that is. It still hurts a little bit. It's not like extremely painful, but I have always wondered if I could have done something different to change the outcome. So, one day, Rob, Lorelei, Elvon male, loves playing Paladin. He hits up a Link Shell chat and says, I got my girlfriend to start playing. Can anyone help her out? She wants to start playing Thief. And I love playing Thief. I knew how hard it was to get Thief off the ground. And I was like, yeah, sure, man. Why not? So I got on my Paladin, like level 40 or so, enough to take care of Goblin Az in the Valkyrum Dunes, where she was trying to level up. And then she asked, like, what job is the healer? So we just told her, well, White Mage. She said, I think I want to play White Mage, actually. And she fell big time in love with it. As she explained, it's like, hey, none of these people are going to do anything if I'm not healing them. And that's how I felt about tank. None of these people are going to function if the tank isn't holding the enemy down. And she understood that, but also distinctly enjoyed healing people. It really brought her a lot of enjoyment, way more than playing Thief. So she starts over, and, we follow her around, dragging a bunch of enemies towards her so she doesn't have to move, healing her, letting her just melee her White Mage up until she can get to Valkyrum Dunes. And it was good. It was a lot of fun for a long time, because then it became like, hey, we can just bring our like level 15, monk or whatever to just help her see what an actual party should be like, so she knows in the future how they should be functioning, what to look out for, how to avoid bad parties. And it was just a lot of good times until Rob stopped playing. And I believe that was when he was about level 68 on his Paladin. I believe that's around the time he stopped. And Courtney, Victalyssa, she was about level 50 on her White Mage. And level 50 is really when Final Fantasy XI starts. That's the point when your equipment actually starts to really matter. If you don't have certain equipment, then you're not going to be able to function. It's not just a matter of elitism of oh, you don't have a Peacock Charm and 2 Sniper Ring +1s. Like, of course, there are people like that, but level 50, you needed to have good equipment. And I had a high level Thief, and I figured, hey, we should go farm together. So we did that for a while. Bordeaux was a place to go, man. I had goldsmithing and alchemy up, so a lot of the drops, hey, a mall, cool, check it out. Holy water, boom, holy mall. Yeah, you can vendor it for even more now. We made a lot of money in there just vendoring things. So that was a good place to go. And things got interesting when, for some reason, a notorious pervert and level 75 player started to talk to her in Juno one day. And this guy obviously had a girl radar on the internet. He could tell the GIRLs from the girls. And he just zeroed in on her, and it just bothered me. Instinctually, I just knew, like, I know what this guy's gonna start doing, but I'm not gonna say anything. And I think that right there may have been my first mistake, because I didn't want to come off as like that guy. Obviously not. She's got a boyfriend. I'm not that kind of person. but I really should have said something. Because around the time we all got up into like the level 65 range, he starts talking to her about, hey, there's this really cool body armor that White Mage can get at level 68. It just gives them MP all the time. And she was started asking us questions about, hey, how do I get this thing? And we're like, you need like a bunch of Damascene cloth. That's why people are always going after Aquarius and the Boyata tree. And she's like, oh, wow, those are really expensive. I don't think I could ever get one of those. And yeah, that made it even worse. The notion in her mind that, oh, I could never have this thing. Saw it coming from a mile away. Because homeboy decided, oh, yeah, sure, you can borrow my peacock charm. And we're like, Courtney, people don't just let people borrow their peacock charm, okay? You don't just, oh, yeah, sure, you can just hold on to this. I trust me that you'll give it back. Do you not see what's going on here? Maybe she didn't. Maybe she really just didn't see. And I did, and I should have said something, and I didn't. Because lo and behold, here she comes, level 68. This guy comes along one day, he's like, hey, I have a present for you for getting to level 68. Oh, yeah, it's a noble's tunic. Big, the biggest shocker of all, right? And then, would you believe it? She starts doing Behemoth. She starts doing Fafnir at level 69, level 70. And it's like, you know that you're not like actually being beneficial, right? They're making you she didn't see it coming. And it became very apparent to me that I really should have said something much sooner than this. Rob hits me up on AOL Instant Messenger. He hadn't really talked to me for maybe about a month or so. I didn't realize how busy he was in his process of deciding, do I want to just keep doing what I'm doing, being a journalist and a writer? Or do I want to go for the bar exam, become an attorney? Because I want the fast cars, man. I want the big houses. He realized I want that stuff, and I'm willing to get it. And then he hits me up, and I'm figuring, oh, cool. Like, I hope, you're like, did you pass the bar exam? And he's just like, you need to help me get Courtney to stop playing Final Fantasy 11. And I was like, oh, why exactly? Why do I need to do this? And he's like, dude, you're really like one of the only people in that game that she actually trusts. And at that point, I should have realized, well, yeah, again, I should have said something much sooner. And instead, I took that trust and I did not handle myself accordingly. Because I was actually just mad at her. As Rob explained to me, she was failing every single class at her college. All of them. She just stopped showing up to classes, wasn't doing any work, completely just living in the dorms playing Final Fantasy 11. All she was doing. I had no idea it was that bad. I guess it should have dawned on me, but it never really did. And I did my best to kind of try and explain to her, is like, Courtney, I play this game a lot because of my situation right now, where I'm looking out for my dad because he's kind of bedridden and I got to check him out. But you got responsibilities that you need to be taken care of. And she's just like, how do you know that? And she got real defensive and really mad about it. And it became apparent that when Rob had tried to explain this to her, she had the same reaction. And she kind of started treating me the same way. And she became pretty distant to me at that point because I didn't really express myself, I guess, in as concerned and friendly as a manner as I should have, because I was mad at her. Because she wouldn't even write her own letter of appeal. Rob had to write it for her and then explained to her, like, look, if I'm going to write this for you, you need to stop playing this game so much. You need to take your academic work seriously. And she didn't appreciate me also saying it at the same time. Maybe I should have waited a little bit. I don't know. But at that point, it became two people against her. And I can only guess that she went and talked to homeboy who was buttering her up with, top tier items before she's even level 70. She just became recluse from our link shell. And I think the worst part about it was somehow another girl from our shell who was a little bit more than friends with Ouchies. Sorry for, airing out dirty laundry. Ouchies, I think you actually still play the game. My bad. I'm here to be a historian, not to judge people, bro. Kalili, Taru, gosh, I don't really remember her name. I know that she lives in Canada, and that she came to visit Ouchies at one point. And I just apologize for airing your dirty laundry. And look at me, my bad, dude. I guess I took a little too much of the NyQuil. I'm a little sick still. But Kalili, same deal. Victalyssa is like level 73. Kalili is level 68. Guess who also starts getting buttered up into join endgame stuff? It didn't take long for our social link shell to basically lose our two white mages into the power trip. And this is really what happens. Like, Final Fantasy XI was a game that hated you. It didn't like you. Final Fantasy XI was not your friend. It was an oppressive force. It was a war zone of psychic hell that we all endured together. And when you found friends to endure that and succeed together with, you started forming bonds and friendships, and those were really important because that's how you formed your static parties. And those were the things that mattered in that game. I really never lost sight of that through all the things that happened, for all the terrible things that I myself did. I myself never lost sight of the fact that people were the thing that mattered most in that game, not the items. Because I've done things with 4 people that should be done with 12 people, simply because we knew how each other played and we knew how to work around each other. But that game was mean. And once you started getting those items, other games today, like, look, if you're unfamiliar, Final Fantasy XI was not like the little pansy MMOs today, okay, with your item levels and everything's the same. You do one quest and everything's handed to you. You're exactly the same strength as the next guy, pretty much no matter what you do. He does 5% more damage to you. That guy does 5% more healing than this guy because he spent 100 years of his life going after one ring off an enemy that appears once a week. That didn't happen in those new games, right? No. Final Fantasy XI was a game where equipment would take you well over, above, and beyond what the intended game was supposed to allow for. These are pieces of equipment that were intended to intoxicate you with overwhelming power and make you comparable to your peers in a way that King Kong would be comparable to a rock. There's no comparison. And once you start getting that stuff, you start getting that power trip. You start to forget. These aren't just statistics that you're comparing yourself against. These are human beings. And that's where the power trip starts to grab people, and they forget the human beings they're dealing with. In time, I think people forget that they themselves are a human being. They become so infatuated with the character that they've made an avatar to be themselves that they want to forget that they themselves exist. That's, unfortunately, what Courtney did. Unbeknownst to her, Rob was done with her. I didn't tell her. He didn't say anything. That was, in fact, I guess, the point. He had moved on. He already found another girl who was perfect for him, supporting him through all his really hard tests that he had to take. He ended up passing his bar exam. At one point, he even had sent me a link and was like, bro, I need to get like 70 comments on this wedding gallery, and I'll get 20% off from the photographer. So I'm only asking very specific people, can you like do this thing for me? And I'm like, yeah, sure, bro, heck yeah. And all this time, Courtney still thought that her and Rob were together. That is how utterly disconnected she had become from reality, from the sheer power trip that Final Fantasy XI caused people to have. And this was not an isolated thing. This is something that occurred probably a lot more than anyone would ever want to know about, frankly. But this is just one of those stories. This is what I saw firsthand. And I've always regretted it. I've always wondered, could I have done something different? Could I have said something different? Maybe at a different time where it could have been received better. I'll never really know, frankly. I ended up talking to Courtney on AOL Instant Messenger years after she had actually ended up quitting, finally. And she just didn't look good, man. Thank God she had a little dog. It was, her best friend. She loved that little thing. I could tell that that dog was really important for her for emotional support. But, man, dude, like, I've seen people get locked on actual physical drugs like heroin and meth who don't mess their life up as much as Final Fantasy XI destroyed this young woman's life. It was pretty sad to see, and what are we supposed to do? We're just a little social shell up against all these people in an endgame shell who are seducing the girls in our shell with all this stuff. It's like, it bothered us so much that they couldn't see what was happening. It was plain to us, but I think maybe we all thought the same thing, as we don't want to be the white knight and get shunned and mocked, I think maybe we were all simultaneously afraid of that happening and being ostracized. But the reality of it is that we ended up seeing two girls having a lot of fun with a video game when they were playing with their friends, us. And then they got tricked into being endgame heal bots for a bunch of people. It was just really sad. And, I don't have any hard feelings about it. I just, trust me, I got plenty of videos of people I want to rail into who are just massive douchebags, but this is not one of those videos. This is just a memory of mine from a time that I constantly reflect on, as a reminder that sometimes it's not really the best idea to immediately rush into a resolution if the person you're trying to resolve things with is not in the correct mindset to hear what you have to say. And that was a terrible mistake that I made, and it ended up ruining a person's life. She did end up, in fact, getting kicked out of college, moving to another state. Both of her parents disowned her for her academic failures, and she ended up moving in with some of her friends. And I lost contact with her after that point. And Rob's a big shot lawyer. He got his Lambo he always wanted, and he's doing good because he saw what Final Fantasy XI was doing to people around level 68. He saw it too. It was a strange thing, man. Final Fantasy XI. It was literally just dancing with the devil, and only people who had the correct mindset, or maybe certain problems in real life were bigger than their problems than they had to deal with in their hearts, that the video game was a necessary escape. That was what it was like for me. I know that's what it was like for my boy Suspiria, But I think in Victalyssa's case, she was trying to use the game as an escape for both her heart and her mind at the same time. And I think that's what caused the power addiction. Now, a lot of us know about that, what that experience was like. I'm not trying to ego trip on myself. I owe this to my link shell. Yo, I owe this to the people in Moonglow. Represent. I would not have that Koenig harness without y'all. It has nothing to do with me. But I was like one of the 20th, somewhere in the 20th American players on Leviathan to get that Koenig cure ass baby. Yeah, you know it. I loved that thing, let me tell you. And once I had that thing, I understood exactly how that power trip begins. I understood what it must have been like to have that Koenig Cuirass all those years ago when it was new. But, the Japanese players got most of them for the longest time. It was only really once the Japanese players were done with something, the rest of us would have the ability to get a claim on it because of the latency difference. But that was unless, you were using bots and scripts. It was really obvious whoever was a bot, whoever was using scripts, when it's like, yo, there's 3 top Japanese shells here. And you're going to tell me homeboy over here got first claim with provoke through all the damsel flies? Nah, bro. I doubt it. I really doubt that. I could imagine an eagle eye shot claiming it, but not a provoke. Are you playing me? That's ridiculous. But that's what these people did, they cheated to get ahead, and then they started seducing other people to come and join them, and all they really did was leave people broken and shattered. It horrified me, honestly. It still kind of messes with my spinal cord. Makes it tingle with all kinds of uncomfortable feelings. Thinking about Kalili, that sweet young girl who was always positive all the time. And then there came the day when I noticed, hey, yo, when's the last time Kalili used an emoticon? Like, for real. She just talks with cold, hard words now. She's not cheerful about things anymore. She's not excited to go do things anymore. When did this happen? And in time, she kind of just broke down. As I recall, she gave kind of a little speech in our link shell chat explaining why she had to quit because she just couldn't handle this game anymore and what it was doing to her. So, thanks a lot, douchebags, for ruining the minds and hearts of 2 women who you probably should have been helping, but instead saw them as nothing but statistics to help you get further ahead while you cheated. So, there's that little slice of Leviathan's history for you.